The bee gardener, the famous bee gardener, with the famous hat, as we were just deciding whether to leave your hat on or not. I think it's become a trademark for you to have the hat on.
It seems so. People recognise me from my hat.
Yeah, exactly. You see you with your hat on, you go, there's John.
Yeah.
So tell people who don't know about you, who might not know you or follow you already, who are you and what you're all about?
Wow, that's an open-ended question. I should say in my day job, I'm a neuroscientist, so...
don't just forget that one. Just I'm a neuroscientist.
Yeah,
what
just drop it in there.
What do you do with that?
So in my research, I've always been interested in how we learn. So how the brain changes due to experience.
So being a neuroscientist then,
Yes.
what does that look like on a day-to-day basis?
So I used to be in the lab all the time,
Yeah.
and mostly I was recording from brains and sat in the dark for some jobs on my own, looking at the screen, waiting for neurons to do their thing. More recently, I've become a lecturer, so most of the time now I'm teaching students about the brain and how we learn and trying to turn them from recent sixth form graduates into scientists who can go out into the world and do their own thing and research and whatever interests them, It's kind of taken a funny turn that now I'm more admin and sort of management rather than research.
Okay.
But I've got into, obviously I've had this huge interest in gardening for a long time, and it fascinates me how trying to bring those two areas together. So why is it we like gardens? Why is it that plants seem to give us these like benefits and mental health? On a daily basis, and as gardeners, we all know that gardens are great for that.
Yeah.
But why is that on a kind of molecular or a neuron level? We don't really know why, which I think is really interesting.
Oh, okay. So that's what you're secretly thinking about all the time.
I'm trying to, but like I say, most of the time I'm teaching students about neurons and how to be scientists, I guess. Yeah.
And so the gardening then. Was that a thing on the side for you initially?
Yeah, so I don't know what it was like for you when you were at school, but our careers advice was pretty poor.
Yeah.
And like the job I do now, I didn't know existed, and I didn't really know you could be a gardener or do anything in horticulture as a career. So I've always been interested in it since school, really, but it's always been a side, like a hobby, and like if I spent 12 hours in the lab, getting home and being in the garden and having all the smells and seeing all the insects and the pollinators, that was like my sort of relief, if you like. It was my boost.
Yeah.
My distraction. So.
And what made you decide to create your garden for pollinators?
Just the well-known plight of insects, like this year particularly, has been really bad. Like
I don't think I've seen
no,
any bees, wasps,
because it's been so cold and wet.
Like that.
So it's well documented, their plight, and the use of insecticides and pesticides doesn't help with that. So I'm just trying to, at least in my local area, trying to boost their numbers. And in the old garden, which was really small, so I should have probably started with that. You asked me a bit about me. So I used to have a small garden that was absolutely packed full of plants, like you couldn't move, and I really like that. Some of my friends used to kind of mock me a bit and say you need to cut things back and it's really overgrown, but you visited it, and you had to sort of fight your way through the plants to get to the back.
I loved that though.
Yeah, it was quite immersive.
It was an experience, exactly. It was immersive because you're brushing past things and it was full of pollinators. Yeah. So as you brush past, there was bees flying up and butterflies and everything.
And that I think was that one thing that I think we all love about gardens is that you have this image in your head of how you want things to be and what you want your garden to look like, and it is a form of art that you can then go and create that in real, and to see that even now I feel like it, kind of like refilled my soul or whatever. I was. Yeah.
And the bee garden, as it became known as,
it was,
ended up on Gardener's World on TV, in magazines, it's been all over the place, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. It took me by surprise. So this is all due to Sarah, my partner, who I have to give a shout out to, I guess. It's all her fault, really, because before we met, like, the garden, I mean, gardens are never finished, right? It's always a continuous and evolving process, but it was kind of the main bones of it had been there for about 5 years, but it was like I saw that and no one else, and I didn't think anyone else would be that interested.
Yeah.
I didn't have an Instagram account, didn't do social media really. I'd never really quite understood it, and sometimes now I still don't. And yeah, we saw Miranda off. What was that TV program called? Called Miranda, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that, wasn't it?
In lockdown, she went with her mum to visit all the National Garden Scheme gardens.
Yeah.
And me and Sarah watched that program. It was really great. And if anyone's not heard of the National Garden Scheme, you should check it out, because the gardens that open under that scheme are incredible. And it's a really good cause as well, of course. So Sarah was like, why don't you open your garden to the public for charity? And I was like, no one's going to come and visit. Who wants to see it? It was like 13 meters by 7. Yes, it was very full of plants, but I was like, apart from me, no one's going to be that bothered.
Yeah.
And then I kind of gave in, and I was like, okay, fair enough. Contacted the Shropshire County organiser. She came and looked and loved it and was like, yeah, you can open next year. And I was like, wow, I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
And then it went from there. We had a photographer come who donates his time and his photos for the NGS, and then also publishes them in magazines. And I think Garden Answers took those up and like put it in their magazine. Wow. There's like a 5-page spread, which is incredible. And then Sarah also then made me do all these like awkward, cringy, as you've seen, this is not in front of a mic, it's not my most natural, I guess, environment. We did all these videos for Gardener's World. During lockdown, they were asking us, viewers to send in their videos, so we did that after lots of outtakes and lots of me swearing at the camera and head and hands. Like, you guys make it look so easy, of like talking in front of the camera and stuff, but it is a massive skill, I think. And that we got a phone call from one of the producers saying we want to show you. So
you had to do like a self-tape sort of thing.
Yeah, it was all on Sarah's iPhone, and like I say, there were so many outtakes of me just like, this is and I forget the plant name or forget.
And they didn't get to see that bit, and then they turned
No, they're around somewhere. I did put them on my Instagram at some point. And that was like a massive shock. And then things have just gone from there. And we opened for the garden for the NGS for 4 years in total, and every year for 2 days we had like over 120 people, which was insane.
Yeah.
And it went from there, and then obviously Instagram helped with that and gave us a lot of exposure, and we've been in a few extra magazines and stuff, and it's been a crazy journey. And then we left all that, we sold that house and left all that behind, and now I've got the opposite problem. Instead of having a small garden, it's a huge garden.
So you've moved house to a brand new project. You've left the bee garden behind.
I did. I dug quite a lot of it up, actually.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, actually. How much of it did you manage to salvage and take with you? What time of year was it that you moved again?
We moved, so we sold in August, and then the house we were going to buy fell through, so we went to a rental. So I was very lucky. The people we rented from, they basically said, you can bring all your plants here, because I was like, I've got so many plants, like insane amount. And they were like, yeah, don't worry, it's fine. So that was really helpful. And it was at that time of year where it was going into winter, so they were all kind of hibernating anyway. But yeah, pretty much all my David Austin roses I dug up. But I had to plan ahead, so we knew we were going to move in the spring. Well, originally it was spring, so I dug everything up, put it in pots that I wanted to take. So like all my David Austin roses, a lot of the perennials. And then we weren't moving, so I had to put them all back in the ground in the pots, which was a bit of a nightmare. And then trying to pull them out again in autumn when everything's grown and is massive was a bit of a challenge. And to be fair, my friends, they came in we spent 2 days moving all my pots and all my plants, and they were great with that. And you remember I had those huge bamboos in the water containers. We took those, my tree fern, we took some big stuff, and we had 2 lorry loads of plants, basically.
2 lorry loads, wow.
Yeah, so that was more than the house, I think.
Yeah, I bet.
So yeah, it was interesting few days moving, but it's done now, and I think, yeah, everything survived actually, which was a small miracle too.
Yeah, because that's always the thing. Normally, quite a lot of it doesn't survive just being dug up and moved around, does it? So tell us about the new house then and the new project.
Yeah, so the new house is an old, I guess, Welsh farmhouse from it's nearly 200 years old. We went to see it last autumn, the bank holiday last year, and immediately fell in love with it when we saw it. It's on the side of a hill, and some people might say it shouldn't be there. It's like and over time it is quite run down, so the hill has tried to take as much of it back as it can, and we're trying to fight that off now. So yeah, it's got a big plot. It's 12 acres. So like I say, it's opposite end of the spectrum to a 13 by 7 metre garden now. To go.
You don't need to cram everything in here.
No. Although I have done that in a little courtyard at the back.
Nice.
That's like all the jungle garden
that's
area.
Still
now.
like a bit of the old bee garden.
Yeah, that's where most of my plants are from that. So it's an interesting project. We're trying to. Sarah is obviously not as into gardening, so she's more into the house. But I'm finding it hard not to be outside all the time.
Yeah, she wants to get the stuff done in the house, and you want to get out in the garden.
Yeah, so it's a fine balance, and obviously finances and stuff. You have to.
Yeah, you can't do it all at once.
Yeah, but it's a nice problem now, or a nice thing to have. Not have the problem of buying a plant and wondering where I'm going to fit it. Now it's like
you've got plenty of space, so as many plants as you want.
And actually it's a different problem now. I've got to try and plan it, and that.
So what is your plan with it? Are you going to plan different sections? Are you going to start in one place and kind of take one bit at a time? How are you going to tackle it?
Yeah, so we've done the jungle garden, and that's pretty much done now, I think. There's a few extras I want to add, and maybe some cheap tree ferns that I've seen here. There was a few bits around the house that were covered in laurels, and we've cut all those out because they were huge and growing up the house and stuff. They've been planted like herbaceous, and I'll just mix and match and change things that don't work, as you do every year anyway. If like budget was no object and also time, I think the front lawn would go, and that was kind of always my thing at the old house. The lawn gradually got smaller and smaller, and that has always seemed to have been my thing, is like dig up lawns and put in perennials. So the front lawn will go, and that'll all be kind of like a mix of I guess, like my old garden, so prairie meets meadow, everything that mixed in and mingles, and I like that kind of naturalistic flow.
Yeah.
And like I say, I could, instead of doing like 3s and 5s and 7s, it could be like 15s and 21s.
Yeah, you can really
plants.
Go for big, thick, herbaceous borders.
Yeah, because it's 20 meters deep. So whereas before it was like 2.
It's going to be like Wisley coming around to your house in a few years.
Yeah. Well, Jenny, who's come in today, her garden's like a massive inspiration for that, because they went from similar blank canvas, and the laundry garden is beautiful. It's one of my favourites. So it'll be like taking inspiration from that. And there's a garden in New Zealand that I love that's Fisherman's Bay Garden that overlooks the sea, which of course we don't have, but we overlook the rest of the Bryden Hills. And so we'll have that, and then I think we're going to have an orchard. One of the problems, another new problem we have is deer, because they just roam around like, there's hundreds of them. And like this year alone, we've probably seen about 50, and like, I think yesterday, I saw like a baby deer just wandering across the front lawn and stuff.
Wow.
So they're pretty
cute,
free range.
But gonna eat your flowers.
Yeah, and they've already been. They kind of stay away from the house because obviously they know people are there. But occasionally they've eaten like some of my pots and stuff. I've gone out one day and all my nasturtiums were just gone. So
they're tasty.
Great, yeah. We've got that problem. So we're gonna have to fence off a lot of it or plant things that they just aren't gonna touch.
Yeah.
But I'd love an orchard. We've got a big field at the back that I'd love to just do all in lavender. This is like a
really nice lavender field.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I'd do with that. Like, would I cut it and make oil, or dry the flowers?
Just enjoy
but not that much. But I'd probably just look at it. And, I've always had that kind of like gladiator fantasy of like walking through a field full of grass and that being your own and just running your fingers through and stuff. So that is a bit surreal that is now
that's now basically
reality.
Your garden.
Yeah. And I love like a mown path through a field of just like
well, it's just simple and really effective, isn't it? And you can just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Low maintenance. That's what you need as well.
Well, yeah, exactly. So that having lots of herbaceous perennials and like in my old garden was super labor intensive. And now I'm on about like creating that, but on about a scale of 10 times.
Yeah, you better get a gardener as well while you're at it.
I know. Well, yeah, so it's a good challenge, Tom, and I've enjoyed this year. It's been frustrating because we moved in Feb and we've done some bits. So in some ways it's been frustrating because I want to get out there, like dig up the lawn, but then also we've got like ground elders, so I've got to get rid of that, and there's brambles everywhere, so I've got to get rid of those too. So we've got loads of blackberries at the minute, which is quite nice. But it's also been quite nice to just watch the garden and see, we've got bluebells in the woods, so we know where they are. We've got the narcissus, pseudo-narcissus, like the native daffodil. They're all on one of the fields. Wow. So it's been really quite nice just to sit back as well and look and see what grows and what works where.
Well, that's what the first year is all about, right? Looking where the sun lies and where it changes with the seasons and what the soil's like and what's naturally there already.
Yeah, it's all those garden design first bits that everyone always talks about, but I think the temptation is always to just dive in.
Just get in, I know, and then you realise that you've planted all the wrong thing there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's been a really bad year weather-wise as well.
Well, if anything, a good year for you to have not got stuck in. So
I think things would have struggled.
Yeah. And how's the house getting on now? Have you?
It's all right.
Made progress there?
Yeah, we've got 2 rooms.
You've got a shower
done.
now.
We do have a shower. It wasn't that primitive before. There was a bath, but it was. It's nice now if we're covered in dust, which is quite often the case, to just go and get in the shower, whereas before we was run the bath, and I'm not really a bath person anyway, so I'd run a bath and be in for 2 minutes, and then it's quite a waste. Yeah, so we've done the bathroom, and we've done our bedroom. I was just chatting to Louise, who's the ceramic botanist over there, about it actually. It's waiting for people to come and like trades and stuff, and finding people is quite tricky. But we've done quite a bit ourselves actually, and learned a lot and surprised ourselves quite pleasantly. If you just have a go, you do pretty good actually.
Yeah.
And with an old house, nothing has to be perfect. So if it's not quite straight or
that's quite nice because it makes it a bit more quirky.
Exactly.
And
it just goes with it. So I can do kind of imperfect DIY pretty well now.
Yeah. So. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I have loved the fact that your Instagram has almost evolved from just being, the bee garden, which was fantastic. But now you get that mixture of the new home and what's happening and what you're finding in random places and how you're getting on with the home renovations and what you're planning for the garden and how that's going to unfold.
Yeah.
So you never quite know what you're going to get. And I love just seeing this project of your new house unfold over the next few years. I think it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, I was a bit unsure whether to post house stuff because, like you say, my account was all about gardening.
I think it's part of the whole journey, isn't it?
It is, and it's also like a reflection, I guess, of my life and what I'm doing at that time. And at some point I was thinking, do I change my intro, the bio bit? But for now, I'll just leave it. At some point, I'm going to have to change it because I've run out of space to put the other magazines that we keep reviewing every now and again.
You're going to have a website for those now.
Yeah, I'll just change them and say. But it's been an exciting time of life, and we are very fortunate and aware of how lucky we are. Getting a house in this country is super, it's like a lottery basically. So the fact we've got this plot of land that we're the custodians of now for hopefully a long time, it's quite a privilege actually. It feels nice.
Well, I can't wait to carry on watching it. It sounds like we're just about to be totally surrounded by a marching band. So I think that's good timing for us to leave it there. But if you don't already, follow John on Instagram. You're the Bee Gardener.
Bee Gardener,
Is it the garden? Bee Gardener.
Yeah.
Bee Gardener on Instagram. Give John a follow and watch his journey over the next few years because I think it's going to be really exciting. and we'll go have a look at this band that
sounds,
seems to be coming towards us.
Sounds great. Yeah, thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me. It's super. I feel super honoured to be asked to come on and
you're very welcome.
3-year anniversary podcast as well. That's really cool.
Yeah, well, you're very welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Cheers.